It'll be much less terrifying if you just come to me.
What's going on, guys? Hope you're all doing well. Now for today's video, I wanted to talk about one of the craziest alien movies from the 80s that I'm sure most people haven't seen. I know that when it comes to these cult classics and horror films from back in the day, there's already a built-up community around some of them, but that doesn't mean that if you walk down the street and mention them by name, everyone's going to know what you're talking about. I mean, we talk about films like Leviathan, we talk about Deep Star 6, and I've even done a video on Creature or Titan Find from '85. Nobody really knows what that is unless you're well educated and initiated to this stuff like we are. But this movie is a prime example of a lot of people probably being a little unaware of it existing, and it honestly is for me personally, because while I'd always been somewhat aware that it existed, it wasn't up until recently that I actually checked it out, and man oh man am I glad that I did. Lifeforce is a 1985 supernatural science fiction thriller directed by Tobe Hooper. It stars Steve Railsback, Peter Firth, Matilda May, and Frank Finlay, and goes over the events of some astronauts stumbling upon a derelict spaceship filled with large bat-like creatures around Halley's Comet. It was written by Dan O'Bannon, who famously helped bring Alien to life, and the special effects were done by John Dykstra, who helped work on the first Star Trek movie. Fresh off of his work on Poltergeist, and right before he got over to Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, this was Tobe Hooper adapting a book called The Space Vampires, and boy, did he make one hell of a crazy movie out of it. After finding 3 human beings locked in suspended animation aboard the bat-like thing's ship, the crew brings them on board their own, but then loses contact with planet Earth. It doesn't take long for the people that have been taken aboard the vessel to start causing chaos, and man, does this movie deliver on that in awesome ways. Now look guys, I went into this movie blind. I had no idea what the hell Lifeforce was about or how it would try to tell its story, and that's probably the best way for people to experience it in my opinion, because there were moments where I was, no joke, jumping at some crazy stuff happening. It's like where you get scared, you know, you're like, what's going on? But you still smile because the movie you're watching, you're so into it and it's so crazy. This film blends science, mystery, and old school vampire myth into a modern setting that I think works extremely well, especially since it's got a distinctly 1980s feel that goes a long way for likability to me. The best way I can describe it is combining Species with Dracula, if that helps you form an idea of what's going on here.
I became the woman I found there in your deepest thoughts.
Matilda May plays the primary antagonist of sorts in the film, someone who the credits only describe as Space Girl, but damn does she make an impression, and just like in other adaptations of the vampire story, there's this irresistible pull towards her being in a similar way to what you've seen in Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman. You know, they work that little detail in there nicely, and it really got me screaming at the TV to the actors going, "Stop, man, run out of there." I gotta be real with you guys, I enjoyed this movie a lot.
Let me go!
Touch me, Carlson.
That irresistibility of a vampire in a very dark way where, you know, people can't turn away, they're just drawn to their presence, like they're compelled to go towards them in the way that Dracula kind of seduces his prey. It's in this movie only with like a science fiction twist, and I was eating this thing up greatly, man. The characterizations aren't exactly as strong as they should be, and I'm sure people that read the book will say that it's infinitely better, but man, this was one of the most insane and ridiculous unfolding of events I've seen in one of these films in a while. And while I can see why people would say Lifeforce isn't really a great film, I can't lie and say I didn't have a good time watching a seriously psychological take on both the space and the vampire ideas. There were moments where something happens and I'm just shocked at what was going on, to the point of me being super entertained throughout. It was really unsettling, but it was a massively entertaining thrill ride. Dude, when it comes to movies like this, And I think I may even do a video in the future called Why Movie Fans Like Bad Movies. I don't really consider this to be horrible. I totally see the flaws here, just like I see the flaws in a Lost World or a Fallen Kingdom or maybe something like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. You just watch movies like this for different reasons, and I think what you're going to like the most about Lifeforce, if you've never seen it before, is how inventive and crazy of a movie it is. And even Tobe Hooper himself said that there was a lot of great ideas, but it probably didn't have the best script. You can see Alien, you can see An American Werewolf in London, other contemporary films that were going around the time kind of bleed into the way this film is presented to everyone. And if you're a fan of 1980s horror, dude, I'm telling you, go watch this thing. You're gonna have a good time. With that being said, if you're looking for a wild 1980s thriller that is pretty damn effective, about space vampires no less, well, look, you're probably gonna love Lifeforce. It wasn't much of a hit, which is why I don't think people know too much about it, but I think this may actually be in my top 3 Tobe Hooper movies after everything is said and done, and hey, I think that's saying a lot. Anyways, guys, these are all just my own thoughts on Lifeforce. Have you seen the movie, and if so, what did you personally think about it? It's just this wild, crazy science run about vampires from space throughout the whole thing, and it boils down to this San Diego scene from the Lost World with crazy giant special effects and people dying and chaos being caused in London. I think it's a ton of fun, but hey, whatever your own thoughts and opinions happen to be, I'd love to hear them in the comments down below.